I wore my late wife's favorite tie to court that morning, burgundy with thin gold pinstripes. She bought it for me on our 20th anniversary. I thought, somehow, it might give me strength, might remind my daughter, Karina, of the man I used to be in her eyes, before ambition infected her heart and turned blood into leverage. She wouldn't look at me. She sat 3 tables ahead, flanked by her attorney and an entourage of PR advisors, stylists, and a media handler. Yes, she brought a media handler to a courtroom. I was 71, arthritic, and still grieving the woman who raised her. She was 33, beautiful, and prepared to destroy me to claim what she believed she was owed. Her attorney began with a calm tone. This is not about money. It's about emotional closure. Then came the fabricated timeline. The stories of manipulation, of coercion, of being silenced for years by a patriarchal grip on her future. The judge nodded solemnly. The audience clutched their pearls. Karina wept on cue. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because if I've learned anything in 7 decades of building empires, it's this. Power isn't in the noise. It's in the weight. She thought she won the courtroom, but he hadn't even started fighting. Before we proceed, subscribe now for stories where the silence is the setup and the verdict is vengeance. Let's proceed. When the ruling came, it was swift. Petitioner Karina Langston is hereby granted exclusive authority over the Langston Family Trust, due to reasonable concern over her father's declining cognitive state. The words hit me like a stone to the chest. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Even shook her hand when she offered it, smiling like a shark with a diploma. She walked out of the courtroom with my name, my estate, and my legacy. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that the house she now owned had 6 cameras, none of which she'd ever bothered to disable. I moved into a modest flat above a bookstore on the edge of town, a far cry from the estate I built brick by brick in the prime of my life. I traded high ceilings and curated gardens for a twin mattress and the sound of teenagers vaping behind the building. But in that space, stripped of symbols and status, I found something far more dangerous than comfort. Clarity. I spent my nights re-watching footage from the Langston estate security system. Years ago, I'd installed a private server after a break-in attempt. What I never told anyone was that the cameras weren't just outside. They were inside, too. Hidden behind light fixtures, inside grandfather clocks, embedded in paintings. Silent observers. Unblinking. 3 weeks after the trial, I found what I didn't even know I was looking for. A conversation, recorded 6 days before the court hearing. Karina and her lawyer, a smirking fox of a man named Harrisvale, standing in my former study, the room where I taught her to read, where she learned to play chess. She was laughing. He won't fight, she said. He's too proud. He thinks dignity is a strategy. And the emotional abuse angle? Vale asked. Convincing, she smirked. We have old texts. Out of context, he'll look like a tyrant. And if he breaks down, all the better. I leaned forward in my chair. She paused. Once the trust is mine, we dissolve the charity, liquidate the stocks, flip the property within 6 months. Your mother would have agreed, he said. She laughed again. My mother would have never let me wait this long. In that moment, I stopped being a father and started being a strategist again. I took the footage to a former protege of mine, Eleanor Gray. Now a top attorney in corporate litigation, she owed me nothing. But when I showed her the files, she closed her laptop and said, "You want this slow or surgical?" I said, "Both." While she filed the preliminary fraud complaints and began building a reversal petition, I leaked the edited audio, no video, not yet, to an independent legal ethics podcast. It made the rounds on social media in 72 hours. No names mentioned, but enough breadcrumbs for anyone curious to follow. The court of public opinion started to shift. For the first time, people asked, what if he was framed? Karina didn't notice the ground slipping yet. She was too busy posing for a lifestyle feature about turning legacy into impact. The article praised her resilience, her bravery in taking back her truth. I clipped it, filed it, labeled the folder, Delusion, because she hadn't taken back her truth. She'd taken mine, and I intended to take it back, in public. The announcement came in an envelope sealed with gold foil and embossed lettering. You are cordially invited to the engagement celebration of Karina Langston and Evan Rothmore. A mansion venue. String quartet. Dress code, elegant evening. She sent one to me, too, out of arrogance, not grace. I pinned it to the corkboard in my study. not out of sentiment, but because I needed the date clear in my mind. Not for celebration, for retaliation. By then, Eleanor had built a legal mountain taller than anything Karina could climb. Wire transfers tied to the dissolved charity. Deeds falsely restructured post-ruling. And, at the center, our crown jewel, the footage of Karina and her lawyer plotting how to deceive a judge, complete with timestamp and geolocation metadata. But we waited, because revenge isn't just about justice. It's about timing. She took the estate with lies. Now he's reclaiming it, with receipts. If you are enjoying this story, subscribe now for stories where betrayal doesn't end in silence. It ends in subpoenas. Let's continue. The night of her engagement party, she wore silver. She gave a speech about family wounds and new beginnings. Cameras flashed. Glasses clinked. Her fiancé beamed beside her, young, affluent, unsuspecting. He didn't know his future was built on perjury. At 9:02 p.m., just as she raised a toast, Eleanor filed our first formal motion to reopen the Langston Trust hearing on the basis of fraud, false testimony, and conspiracy to manipulate judicial proceedings. We timestamped the filing, then sent copies to the State Bar Association and the press. The story broke within 48 hours. The footage, blurred but undeniable, aired on 3 national news outlets. Online articles referenced a prominent heiress accused of fabricating court testimony to seize family assets. Karina's PR team scrambled. Evan's family pulled out of the wedding. Her lawyer vanished into legal silence. She released a statement. This is a personal attack from a bitter parent. I stand by the truth. But the court didn't. Because when the preliminary hearing reopened, the judge said, we were misled. And the court does not forget that. The same judge who once stripped me of my dignity now addressed me with deference. Mr. Langston, please take the stand. And I did. But this time, I didn't bring sorrow. I brought evidence. Let me know when you're ready for Chapter 4, the wedding she'll never forget. She delayed the wedding once, blamed scheduling conflicts. Then twice, blamed the press. But the third date stuck, almost defiantly. Maybe she thought that walking down the aisle would reset the narrative. That a wedding dress could bleach out scandal, and that Evan's presence would absolve her. But I wasn't done, and neither was the law. We waited until the ceremony began. A Baroque cathedral, guests in muted opulence. Everything was perfect. From the doves that were meant to be released during the vows, to the $20,000 floral arch under which she would become Mrs. Rothmore. She walked down the aisle wearing a custom Dior gown, smiling like nothing could touch her. That was her last moment of control. Because just as the officiant said, if anyone objects, I rose. Not from a pew. From the back doors. Flanked by my lawyer, 2 federal investigators, and a court-appointed official. I didn't say, I object. I said, Ms. Langston, you are being served. Gasps scattered like glass underfoot. Eleanor handed the officiant a stack of legal papers. The federal investigator handed another set to Karina. Motion to vacate trust authority. Charges of perjury, trust fraud, and witness tampering. Motion to freeze assets pending litigation. Recommendation for formal indictment. Her hands shook. Her groom stepped back. Her face drained of color. She didn't cry this time. There was no audience to perform for now. Only witnesses. A silence fell heavy. Evan asked, is any of this true? And she couldn't answer. Because any word would be the wrong one. The ceremony was called off. Guests left in stunned silence. The arch collapsed under its own weight. Poetic, really. Karina didn't return to the estate. She couldn't. It was locked, frozen, under a new order. The same home she stole was now evidence in an ongoing criminal investigation. Eleanor called me the next morning. We've secured a full injunction. Her accounts are frozen. The estate is back in play. She'll be lucky to walk away with the clothes she wore to court. And I just nodded. Because now we were ready for the final move. The estate was quiet when I stepped inside again. Dust covered the furniture. The air smelled of old perfume and dead flowers. In the corner of the study, a single framed photo had fallen face down. One of Karina and her mother, taken when the world still made sense. I didn't pick it up. Some things are better left on the floor. The court ruled in my favor 2 months later. The footage, combined with financial records and Karina's private communications, created an airtight case for fraud. The trust was revoked, restructured, and fully removed from her control. The charity she dissolved was reinstated and placed under independent oversight. But I didn't take it all back. I took it apart, piece by piece. I sold the estate, not to reclaim its value, but to close its story. I liquidated key assets and donated the proceeds, nearly $12 million, to foundations focused on judicial ethics, elder protection, and female entrepreneur support. Every donation was made under one name: Margaret Langston, my wife, Karina's mother, the woman she shamed with every lie she told to gain control. The judge asked me during the final hearing, "Do you wish to press criminal charges?" I looked at Karina, tired, hollow, stripped of her arrogance, and I said, "No, Your Honor. I just want her to live with the truth. Because prison ends. Shame doesn't." If this story gripped you, infuriated you, satisfied you, subscribe now for more narratives where silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And revenge isn't loud, it's permanent.